Our first speaker then today is actually Matt Davies himself, the Matt.
Goodness.
Well, we don't have to go to you. If we can jump if you want to, unless you're ready.
No, I'm gonna rattle through mine. Hello, everybody.
Okay. So just to give you a bit of an overview of Matt first before you start. So Matt is basically our tech guy, our facilitator and joint host with me tonight. He's done a sterling job so far with helping us with the online events and our very first one last month. Matt is actually a solo brand and culture consultant who helps business leaders align around powerful brand strategies and create more meaningful customer and employer experiences. And I've been seeing a lot of collaborations that Matt's been involved with recently, and you'll find him doing a lot of creative stuff online right now. So definitely one to follow is Matt Davies, brand strategist. So Matt's going to be taking us through now brand building customer relationships in the time of COVID-19. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Fiona. And I've got 12 minutes, haven't I? So let me just keep.
You have. So it's 6:15.
It's great. It's great. It's great. Well, thank you everybody for your attention. And yeah, I thought what we could talk about today was obviously on the theme of relationships was more customer relationships, right? From a brand perspective, you know, I always say that brands exist to serve a particular type of audience, to serve a tribe. In fact, I define brand, I think those of you that were on the one last time, as the meaning that people attach to you and your offer. So with that kind of definition, it's a lot wider than a lot of people might think of as a brand, because a lot of people think of it as some logos and some fonts and set of colors. But to me, it's a lot bigger than that. It's really about this idea of managing meaning. And of course, the meaning, therefore, is not something that you actually own per se, because the meaning actually exists in the hearts and the minds of your audience. So what you have to do is you have to try and manage that meaning. And of course, everybody's been trying to do that recently, particularly with Corona and the problems that we've been facing. People have been trying to communicate in a particular way, and I'm sure we've all seen the typical Me Too communication from the CEOs of companies we've probably filled out a form once from, and suddenly we've got all this correspondence from them. And so it's getting a lot of press at the moment. And I think for me, what I wanted to sort of say to you guys tonight was, look, you know, more than ever, customer relationships are absolutely crucial, more than ever. And I'm not talking about kind of broadcasting information. I'm not talking about kind of mass market social media stuff, although of course, how we manage social media is obviously important. I'm talking about real kind of relationships between staff and between customers. One of Fiona mentioned I've been doing a few bits online, and I think it's going to be tomorrow. I'm actually launching a free it's about 50 minute training called Brand Pivot. And it all centers around building a great customer relationship with your top customers. And so I was going to very briefly kind of talk you through that, because I hopefully think that you might find it useful. And if you do, then you can watch the full training and hopefully use it. So businesses have kind of steadied the ship, right? They've unfortunately had to furlough or lay off staff. They've put the safety measures in place, and we're all getting used to this new kind of remote world that we live in, a lot of us. But often we know, some of us, that, you know, that's not going to be enough. Like, we need to create value. We need to create revenue in our businesses. So the question is, how do we create that revenue? And my answer to that is great customer relationships. Now, let me sort of explain what I mean. I think the first thing that we need to do is really set aside at some time or some people within our businesses to focus on a pivot, on a change. Focus on how we're going to be relevant in the coming months, because obviously we're in lockdown, but we don't know how long that's going to go on for. And some businesses will need to create value, to get paid so that they can survive. So the first thing is to create that space, that, you know, I call it the SWAT team, the innovation SWAT team. Get them together, multidiscipline, different parts of the business, and work through a number of what I'm going to suggest, a number of sprints with them. So the first one is the key one for tonight's sort of talk, which is to discover. So you need to go, rather than make assumptions on how your audience and how your customers and how your tribe is feeling and what they're suffering. My suggestion is you need to go out and you need to listen to what they have to say. Now, you could do that through social media and stuff, but if you've got the opportunity, I would say get all of your top customers, find maybe the top 10, right? And pick up the phone, right? Get in touch with them and ask them how they're doing. In fact, the best thing to do is to phone them and say, look, we're thinking about doing this type of new idea. Would that help you or not? And if they say no, then say, well, what kind of stuff could we start to do that would be relevant to you, that would help you? And what kind of challenges have you got? If they say yes, say, well, that's fantastic. I want to keep talking to you about this. What problem would that solve? How are you trying to solve that right now? So ask questions, get personal, get your hands dirty. I think a lot of people very comfortable sort of sitting behind computers like keyboard warriors. Now is the time to build those really strong relationships, to find those customers that you want to add value to. The next thing I think that I'm suggesting that people do is after you've had those conversations, and maybe in your innovation SWAT team, maybe you've got, say, 4 or 5 people, maybe they go and all of them have separate conversations to various parts of the audience. Get them to come back together and to kind of have a conversation about how that's gone. What are the key challenges? What are the key problems that we've actually discovered, really, from the research that we've done, from the questions that we've asked, and get them to kind of cluster them into sort of categories and subjects. The other thing that you really need to do after a bit of conversation on that is really to kind of define the problem. So there's loads of resources out there for problem definition. So you just need a very simple series of problems that you see that your tribe are facing right now. The next thing I would suggest you then need to do is to start to try and think about how you might crack some of those problems as a business. So this is where you'd go off again. You'd kind of you'd insist that everybody comes with 5 great ideas and give them a deadline, so they're all sort of set to go for a particular point in time, and get them to come back. And I always suggest in the solutionizing sort of phase that you get people to prototype something, like sketch it out, because they then can self-correct if it's not quite right. But also when they're talking it through, people can imagine it better and people can kind of understand it a little bit more. So get them to come back, present their solutions to the group, and then it might be a great idea if you have an agreed way of scoring ideas. So one thing that I tend to use is 2 kind of scores out of 10, nice and simple. Number 1, how much value do we think this will add to our tribe right now? 10 being loads of value, 1 being none. And the second thing you want to ask yourselves is, how easy would it be for us to do this? 10 being super easy, 1 being not easy at all. And go through everybody's ideas. There's no, you've got to create a safe space. No one should get upset. It should just be done quite, friendly, exciting, high energy. Get that done. And then hopefully out of that, you'll have a scored amount of solutions that possibly with a bit more development could happen. But before you go into actually investing in deploying some sort of build of that, my suggestion is you need to verify that. So this is where you need to go back out to the people you originally spoke to and say, hi there, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Thank you for the information you gave us. One of the things that we noticed was this was a major problem. And we're thinking of doing this thing, and maybe go out with 2 or 3 ideas back to them of your best ideas and see what they say. Again, create notes. And then when you come back together as a team, as an innovation team, share the results and review the matrix of scoring that you did before. Maybe it's changed. Maybe people see more value in it than you thought that they would have. Maybe people see less value and adjust them accordingly. And then what you want to do is hopefully you've got kind of I would say maybe 1 great idea out of all of that. Hopefully you've got 1 clear winner. You might have a few, but say you've got 1. The next thing is you need to obviously look to plan to deploy that idea. And one of the tips I'm seeing and some of my clients are doing is say in your current business you have a gap. So let's say it's maybe it's digital know-how, or maybe it's logistics. If you recognize that this solution needs something else that you haven't got right now, and it would be very costly for you to get, my suggestion is look for a partner, right? So there's loads, for example, there's taxi firms out there that would probably love to do more business than perhaps they're doing right now. So maybe they'd be an ideal logistics partner, even for a few months. and you can go and approach them and you can have a conversation. I think we've got to think outside the box. We've got to be a bit creative. We've got to think solutions. And then when you also want to think about what's the minimum viable solution here? What's the smallest sort of thing you can do, and then design and reiterate it as you get feedback from your customers. This is why that customer relationship is absolutely crucial, in order to kind of get that feedback loop so that you can really produce something really meaningful. And this is the thing for me, like, brands should not just be a veneer, logo and fonts. We should really be creating something really special, really helpful to people, so that we are relevant to them, to our tribe. We're making the tribe stronger in these times. And so then finally, you've got to deploy it. So get your plan together, get your milestones. Obviously, every business is different. Every circumstance is different. You're going to know your context more than mine, but get that in place. So that's all I really wanted to say, really, was there's some ideas. I've got this coming out tomorrow. It's completely free. It'll be on YouTube. It's literally just me in my room talking with some slides, and it goes into a little bit more depth than I've just gone through there. It's called Brand Pivot. And yes, follow me on social. I'd love you to have it. And if you find it helpful, that's absolutely fantastic, because in these times, we need to build those relationships. We need to give back, and we need to connect. That's it really from me.
Oh, unmute myself. Thanks so much, Matt. That was great. Thank you. Yeah, a round of applause there.